Okay. Oops. Sorry. That I thought was all down and all of a sudden it was back loud again. Okay, everything looks good. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time here for everybody to get in. I am doing it solo today. I'm Shannon. Welcome to Hero Arts Make Along. Today we are featuring the April kit. If you remember, the April kit had a strong kind of mixed media theme. There was this awesome stamp set, as well as some really cool, this is just in the classic kit, that stamp set, as well as these texture dies, or texture cling stamps. Hi, Rosie. I am praying that everything's going to work good today because I changed my internet setup. So now we're connected directly to the Ethernet. So hopefully there's no problems. I'm really hopeful there's no problems because after this, I do not know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. Oh, great. I'm so excited. So this is a fun one. We're going to do some watercoloring today with this kit. We're going to create this card. This card features the liquid neon watercolors, which I love. They're really, really pretty, but you could use whatever watercolors you have today. But if you're going to follow along, those are the colors I'm using. And we do have, with all the make-alongs, and today included, we do have a handout or a write-up of all the materials used and all the steps, and that's on Hero Arts website. Okay, great. Everything looks like it's so far good. It sounds like you guys can hear me well. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and try to switch to the other camera, and then we'll get started on today's card. So we hope this works well. Let me mute this, and we'll switch over. Oop, oop, there. Yikes. Sorry. I don't know why it's not working. If you're unmuted on your other camera, it would work. I will see if there's some way I could still be, you can hear me on here, and then, but I don't, don't have to see my face. Okay, let's see. How do I do both? You don't want to look at my face. It won't let me do that. Oh, I know. Oh no, that's not it. That's muted on here. Let me try one more thing. Okay, I'm just trying to think because I can remove myself and still like in the back, but it doesn't, you can't hear me. That's what I don't understand. It should be able to do that. Have me. I know the double screen is, it's just so small. I don't know, there's a better way to, I know, I don't understand. It's not working the way it's supposed to. This should work, but it's not working the way it's supposed to. The one thing I can try to do is, and now it looks like it's freezing. At least it's freezing on my phone. I can try to log out again. We'll do that real quick. All right, sorry guys. I want it real quick. I'll remove that. And now it's all glitchy. It's lagging. It looks like it's lagging. Is it lagging for you? Allow. Mic working, yeah, mic working, okay. Let's switch the camera. Okay. Yeah, a bit glitchy, a bit laggy. Okay, so it's the same for you guys. Okay, let's try this one more time. I'm gonna mute me. Okay. There. Now I know you can hear me because I heard myself for a second. But it is seem a little freezing. Okay, that works. We'll hope that it looks a little bit better on my end. I think you can hear me. Okay, let's go before anything breaks. Let's get going. I'm going to start with this one of the clings. I'm going to use this one that kind of is tweedy, and we're going to make that background. I don't know. I think it's just super finicky. That's what I think. I think it's a little finicky. That's what I'm learning. I don't know. Because it should work all the time. If it's working, it should work all the time, right? Not just stop working. I'm going to grab a panel of watercolor paper or watercolor cardstock. Great. You guys can hear me. Good. Place it into my MISTI here. I did remove the mouse pad because this is a cling. So it has that extra dimension, but if you forget, you can still stamp. I'm gonna do my best to get this centered here on this panel. I'm just gonna rock and roll before we lose anything while everything's working. All right. And we have our windows open. It is such a night. The weekend has been so nice here in Arizona, like crazy nice. Okay, so I picked up with my Misty. I'm going to apply some anti-static powder because I am going to heat emboss. You have them say Misty. Isn't it great? Love my Misty. And then I'm going to ink this up in embossing and watermark ink. And we're going to stamp it a couple times just to make sure we have a really good impression. And I'm going to grab the scrubby tool. I kind of like to use that, or the scrubber, as a, what do they call these? Like a Chucky? What do they call these? And we'll stamp it again. I'm going to do it a couple of times because we do have extra texture. Hi, Libby. Things are finally working. Boy, I had a rough start. Everybody was so patient with me. But we finally got it going. And stamp it again. I think 3 times. I think I'm going to stamp it 3 times just to make sure. Oh yeah, it's already looking, I can kind of see it. I don't think you could have even helped me, Libby. It was just not quite working right. So no worries. It's just, I think StreamYard on my end is a bit finicky. Yeah, they are great. The scrubbers are so good, aren't they? I love them. They're so good for cleaning your stamps. But if you have like a clean one you can set aside, it's good for this too. Oh my gosh, you're riding while your daughter practices her driving. Wow. Someday I'll be there and I won't be ready for it. Okay, I guess I did 4. I lied. Okay, that's the last one. But I can see I can see 2. Oh, of course, now it's gonna get a little. Don't get a little glitchy. Don't get glitchy. Stop it. Stop it. Bad. 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 I keep going because all I'm doing. Look. All I'm doing right now is I'm gonna give it a little time. I know it's glitchy. I can see that. I feel like the only way for me to fix the glitch is to log in. But right now I'm dipping into the heat emboss, the white heat embossing, and I'm going to heat set. So I'm sure you guys have seen that before. And I might have to do that log in, log out thing. It's like, I feel like maybe it's just my internet's like super spotty. Like, it works good and then it doesn't work good for a minute. All right, turning my heat tool on. Give this a second here. Hopefully I'll fix it itself. We're not doing anything really exciting. Okay, that is heat set and looks like we're still a little laggy, so I'm gonna switch to my face. Oops, drop my heat gun on the floor. All right. And I'm going to switch my camera around again. Yep, let me reload it. Not ideal, but I feel like that's working. Mic, testing, yes. Okay. I'll have to figure out, maybe it's, back camera. Okay. What's that? Okay, and add it to stream. All right, we're back. Good. All right, I'm gonna grab my watercolors that I'm using. I'm just gonna do a little test to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Test? Oh yeah. Okay. And I'm using a lot of colors. I'm going to use the pink, the red, the orange. And look at my card here. Okay. The bright sunshine, which is kind of the warmer yellow. Not that one. Then the chartreuse and the green. And we're going to go ahead and paint this ombre background right now. Again, we're doing this background here. Keeping an eye on everything. And I'm going to use a flat brush. This makes it a little bit easier. And I grab my water. And I'm going to apply the liquid watercolor right to the okay, let's see. That didn't work. I'm wondering if this would be better. I'm just going to pop my face in here. See, that seems to be working good, but this is laggy. Okay, let's see if we can switch cameras. All right, trying something else. Oops. Oh no. Oh, I've done that before. Okay, doesn't look laggy. I can hear me. I spilled the liquid watercolor. I didn't want to do that. Just gonna have to pick it up. Unfortunately. Sad day. I've done this before with this pink too. And the only other thing I want to do is just see if I can't change the camera. Does it seem dark? Nope. Okay. All right. I'll just have to be backwards like this. I'll try to do it upside down so it doesn't feel so backwards. It shouldn't be freezing, right? It's not freezing anymore. All right. Okay. So I'm going to do this pretty dry. I like a lot of control when I watercolor. Just going to see, it's like, I don't think it's lagging. Is it lagging? Oh, it is lagging. Wait, no, it's not. It is lagging. Shoot, I thought I fixed it. Pixelated, but not freezing. Okay. Yeah, I know. I feel bad about the pink spill too, but that's me being clumsy, trying to switch things around. Yeah, it's still freezing. I don't understand. Okay, StreamYard, I'm connected to Ethernet. That was supposed to fix it. But it didn't. I don't understand. Let's take that out of the equation. Maybe that'll help. All right, I'm going to talk you through because I feel bad if I really spent way too much messing with this. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of the liquid watercolor. I'm gonna actually not start with pink. I'm actually, it doesn't really matter. I'll start with the green. And it is the bright green. So kind of that darker green. And I'm gonna grab it comes in a little eyedropper, and I'm going to just release some of the color in a row, in a line across that heat embossed area. I'm going to twist it tight. Then I'm going to grab my paintbrush. I'm using a flat brush. This is about a 1/2 inch. Dip it into the water. And then I'm going to go across it, just a little bit of water though. You don't need very much. Move that color across, back and forth. And I like to even go a little bit beyond the heat embossing. And we want to kind of stretch this color out so it's almost an inch, like 3/4 of an inch of that color. Something like that. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush, grab a towel to kind of dry it. We'll move on to the next color. Next is the chartreuse. Again, I'm going to apply it directly to the panel. And I'm going to get a tiny bit of water, but I think I got too much water last time, so I'm just going to dip it into my water and then dry it a tiny bit on my towel. I really don't like to use a lot of water. One, you have less control, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but could be if you have a hard time giving up that control. But mostly it dilutes the color. You're not going to get quite as clean and crisp. We're going to stretch that color out again. Go over the darker green a little bit with that chartreuse. So you guys can't see anything? Is it totally frozen? Ugh. Why? Don't understand that. It's connected to the Ethernet. Okay, that's supposed to fix everything. It cleared up? Okay, Rosie, it did clear up? Okay, it's good now. Okay. Then I'm not gonna mess with anything. I'll leave everything as is. Oh my gosh, I keep spilling everything. We're gonna suck this one up. Not as bad as the pink though. That's what happens when I get all a little flustered. And I got a little bit on here, but that's not going to be too bad to get off. And if not, it might just be part of the card. What a day. Just trying to clean up a little bit of mess that I made, but first it might have to be a little spot. That just might be how it is. Okay, moving on. Next color is Sunshine. Yes, I could make a video and post it. I definitely could. But lives are so fun when they work. I actually really enjoy lives, but I don't know why I have so many problems with when I do it this way. This way, for some reason, it gives me problems. Okay, again, dry my brush a little bit. Aren't these colors great, though? They're so fun. Okay, clean. My water quickly got dirty because I tried to clean my chamois in it. Now moving on to the orange. All right, a little bit of orange. Tiny bit of water. I always use just the smallest amount. Clean my brush here. Kind of go over that yellow and blend a little bit better, that yellow and orange, just a little bit so it's a smoother transition. Same thing with the chartreuse. Now we'll move on to red. Yes, it's Neon Liquid Watercolors from Hero Arts. There are 8 new colors. This one is the red. They're so bright and vibrant and really fun. And we're even going to do a little bit of painting with them. Okay, last pink. I think I would learn to twist it on. I think I have enough residual over here in my spill. Yep, so I'm just going to use that. Here we go. And that's pretty much it. Somehow I got some red up here. Luckily, liquid watercolors, they're pretty forgiving. I mean, I've made a right mess of everything. I've even spilled over here on the side. I think you guys can see it, but it will clean up. I went back over with my green just because I used too much water before and I thought it was too light. That's really it. So now my brush is basically dry. You know, it's just a little damp from, you know, dipping it into the water for the other colors and everything, but it's basically dry. Just going to go over. You see much more vibrant that green is now. That's kind of what I was going for. That's what I want, more vibrant like that. All right. We're going to call that done there for our background. We're going to set that aside to dry. Okay, I'm going to try to do a cleanup. My poor chamois that was super saturated with the liquid watercolors. I'm going to try to do a little quick cleanup. The next thing we're going to do is actually stamp the flowers from the stamp set. Okay, let's make sure all these are twisted so I don't spill anything again. Okay, great. All right, moving along. Okay, I hope it's not lagging. I can't tell if it's lagging anymore because I got rid of my other camera. So we're going to move on to that clear stamp set. And I'm going to need my mouse pad again. So I'm going to grab that, pop that in. And you're going to need another panel of watercolor paper. If you look at watercolor paper, there tends to be like a smooth one side that's slightly smoother than the other. You're going to want that smoother side. Okay, good, no lagging. Great, thank you guys for keeping me posted. All right, and we're going to pull off a lot of the stamps from this set. The leaves here, all of the flowers. So there's 3 kind of like big flowers, and then there's a bud. We're not going to do these ones that look like they would go into the vase or the pitcher. We're focusing on the larger florals. So this leaf, the bud, these 2 flowers, and this one here. Okay. And we're just going to arrange them. Now we're going to use, we are going to heat emboss them, but we're going to use black embossing powder, which is my favorite. But if you don't have black embossing powder, you can always cheat by stamping your images first in black ink, then stamping them in your embossing. You need a MISTI to do this, obviously, because you're stamping it multiple times. Then you stamp it in your embossing ink, and then you pour over clear embossing powder. And that's kind of how you can, you know, faux create the black heat embossing. But I prefer the powder a little bit more just because I feel like it's really intense black. I really like the way it looks. Okay, so I've got my picture, my stuff lined up. Oh, thank you, Ron. I'm so glad you're watching. And I'm glad it's working now. Gotta move my liquid watercolors. All right, I'm gonna apply some anti-static powder. And grab my embossing and watermark ink, because again, I'm going to use the black embossing powder. I'm trying to see what there. And get that scrubby, it works so good. I definitely going to stamp it a couple times. We've got all that texture from the watercolor paper, so it does kind of hinder getting a really good impression. So it does help to stamp it a couple times. Okay, I think that looks pretty, actually, I think I need to do a little bit more on this flower here and this branch. Just a little bit more ink. And then I think we'll be done. I'm gonna really press. Okay, maybe one more time. I can just kind of see that the ink looks a little broken. Just takes a little bit more work with the watercolor paper. Okay, we're gonna call that done. I'm gonna grab my black embossing powder. And pour it over. So pretty. Got some stray. I'm not gonna really, I'll clean it up a tiny bit. Whoops. Oh my gosh, let's not do that. Grab my brush. Adjust this a little bit out. I've had to resort to propping up my laptop. If you can't tell, and it's a little awkward, but as long as it works, I do not care. All right, that's cleaned up enough. Pour this back in. Okay, I am going to turn my heat tool on, so it's going to get a little noisy. Let's clean this up a bit. Hopefully it still works because I dropped it. Okay, that's done. I know, I love the black embossing powder. It looks so good. So pretty. All right, let's watercolor these. Okay, so we're gonna use all the same colors we used before. Our two greens, the chartreuse and the green. Let's start with that. Let's just do the leaves. Let's start simple. We'll start with those. I have a little palette that I'm going to kind of use. And now we're going to switch over to the number 1 round brush. But really, it's kind of your personal preference for this. I'm going to put a little bit of my green out on my palette and a little bit of my chartreuse. Again, I'm going to use very little water. I don't like to use very much water. Oh no, are you frozen again? I can't tell if it's frozen. Okay, we start with that chartreuse. And we're just going to paint the whole leaf chartreuse. So really simple right now. But again, little water just to keep it really intense. Not here, not here. Okay, good, good, good. So just kind of a flat coloring right now. All right, let that dry just for a second. Of course your kitty would take your warm spot. Okay, now I'm going to grab that green and we're going to just kind of paint a little gradation. I'm basically just using this green straight as it comes, straight from the eyedropper, no water added to it. So it's just that pure color, and we're going to paint where the leaf would meet the stem. Don't worry about blending it out yet. Just get some of that color down there. And I'm going to repeat that for all my leaves. Just give some of that darker green at the base. Don't worry about blending it out right now. Okay, so I got a little bit of that darker green at the base of all these leaves. Now I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to dry it just a bit. I don't want it really wet, but I also don't want it completely dry. So it's a little damp, just a little damp. And then you're going to go over that darker green and kind of move it over to the chartreuse just to kind of encourage that blend a little bit. And just repeat that on all the leaves. If you ever find that you're just kind of moving the green, you're just moving a lot of that green and losing all your chartreuse, then you need to clean your brush, dry it, and then come back to your project. You just have too much of that green loaded in your brush. That's what's happening. Clean my brush, dry it, and then soften that blend. Great. So this is a really simple gradation over those leaves. Okay. Now we're going to move on to something a little bit harder. We're going to move on to the flowers. So the flowers, you're going to use the pink, and the red, and the purple. The purple we're going to use for a darker shade, just to add a little bit of shadow. So I'm going to just add a little bit of these colors to my tray here, my palette. Let's see, is everything still on camera? I'll slide this up. There we go. A little bit of that purple too. Okay, let's start with this flower. He is going to be pink. So we're just going to dip into the pink. Again, my brush is pretty dry. I just cleaned it before when I switched to get rid of the green. I'll do it real quick. So I clean it out my water, dry it, try to do this on camera, on my towel. And then I'll go to the pink. You're going to try to avoid that center and like the stamen. Do your best to avoid it. That's why you kind of need the smaller brush. If you get a little bit there though, you can try to pick it up or just not worry about it, just leave it. How fun is that pink? It's so pretty. Just working my way around. Basically a flat color. We're not worried about gradations right now. We're going to use the other color to get our gradations. Okay. Now I'm going to clean my brush and dry it. I always dry it after I clean it. Move to the purple. Again, I didn't add any water. And we're going to do something very similar to how we did the leaves. Just add a little of that purple to where the petal meets the center. And then if you'll notice, these petals are overlapping. We have an overlap right here. I'm going to go along that overlap as well with that purple. So kind of look at how your petals are laying. Here we have another overlap. Go along that with the purple. Get a little bit in the center. Here's our other overlap. Right along that edge. Now this one has two. This petal here is overlapped by this petal and this petal, so we're going to go along that edge. Two of them for that one. Go along the edge. And there. So that's all the petals. Now it looks kind of choppy right now. Definitely doesn't look blended very well. Now I'm going to clean my brush, dry it again on the towel, and now we're going to start to blend out that purple. But to kind of help it so we don't overtake, I am going to dip it into the pink a tiny bit. Just get a little pink, I mean the tiniest amount. And we'll go over where the purple and the pink would meet. So right along that edge, go over that a little bit with your, just a tiny bit of that pure pink. If you find you picked up too much purple, just stop and clean your brush. Dry it, just don't forget to dry it. Oops, I colored one of my stamen. Oh well, no big deal. Okay, and that's pretty much it for our pink flower. We added a little bit of depth with that. Oops, let's actually get it on camera. With that purple. Okay, let's move on to the red flower, which is this guy up here, the side facing one. Clean my brush, dry it. Okay, we're gonna go to the red. On camera. And we'll just paint the petals. Dry my brush out a little bit. You can even get too much like liquid watercolor and on your brush, and it'll take too long to dry. I get impatient. I like to move on to the next step really quickly. Okay, that's what we're going to call it done for the red, or the base anyways. Clean it. And now we're going to use that purple again, just like we used the purple for the pink flower. We're going to use it for the red flower as well, as to kind of add shadow and add some depth. So going to the purple, again with the dry brush, and we'll start at the center. And paint along wherever you see a petal that's overlapping another, kind of get that edge. There's not as many petals on this one, so it shouldn't take too long. And end with something like this. Oops. I'm going to clean the brush, dry it, and then use that red with watercolor just to get a little on my brush. Use that to help kind of blend it out. Pick up a little bit of that purple, blend it out. Perfect. You're left with something like that. Okay, now let's move on to, let's do our little bud He's really easy. And then we'll do our big flower. The bud's going to be the pink and purple. The pink and the red. The top part will be pink. The bottom part will be red. I know this is probably actually should be green, but I wanted more color. I didn't want any more green. I wanted more of the two-tone flowers. So that's why I chose to make it actually red. So we'll just quickly grab the pink and color that top kind of actual bud part. Clean, dry our brush. Move on to the red. For that bottom part. Clean, dry brush. And we're going to grab a little bit of our purple again to kind of add depth. So going to the purple. Adding along the bud. Now this is so tiny, you might not even blend this out. And at the base of the flower. I think the only part I'm going to blend out, the bud looks good to me, but the part under the bud, I think it needs a little bit more red. So I'm going to clean my brush, dried it completely, going back to that red. Kind of go over that purple a little bit with the red, and that'll kind of add more red and also blend that purple bit. We left with something like that. Okay, now our big flower, this is the combo color of pink and red. The center area of the flower, not the actual flower center, but the center row or ring of petals is going to be pink, and the outer ring of petals will be red. And it's the same process we did before. I'm going to start with the pink and quickly color or paint that center ring. And it's like a little bit too much liquid watercolor, so I'm going to dry my brush a little bit. It's just a little too wet. And now I need a little bit more. I'd rather err on it being too dry than too wet. And just stop and get some more water, or in this case, more liquid watercolor if it's too dry. Okay, there's the pink. Yes, your water doesn't have to be perfect because there's die cutting involved, exactly. You can bleed out even. I would not say I'm a very good watercolor person because I'm too controlled. I do love the look of when it's loose and blending, you have nice flow. I just not very good at embracing that kind of painting style. So if you haven't noticed how I'm watercoloring, it's very controlled, which is why I don't use a lot of water. So I can have a lot more control that way. So I just moved on to the red, painting that outer ring of petals. Oh, these colors are so vibrant and so pretty. I love them. All right, and then we'll move on to the purple and adding that shadow. And I promise, after this flower, we're practically done. We just have the centers, and the centers are very easy. Okay, and so for that, the pink petals, I'm going to do the same thing. Start the center with the purple and go along wherever there's an overlap, where one petals overlap the other to kind of create that little shadow so it has more depth. All right, and I'm going to go straight to the red petals as well. I'll blend everything out after I get that purple down. Just the same thing with the red petals at the center, kind of where the petal would meet the center of the flower, and then wherever there's an overlap. And I'll hold this up to the camera too in just a second so you can see. And it'll be kind of stark right now. What to be left with. Oh, 2 cards at the same time. You're ambitious, Rosie. That's awesome. All right, and now it's time to blend it out. So I'm going to go back. I've cleaned my brush, so there's no more purple. And then I'm going to go back to the liquid watercolor, starting with the pink. Just dip my brush and just get a tiny amount of the pink, just a tiny bit. And we're going to actually use that actual liquid watercolor, almost like water itself, to kind of blend out that purple. Still a little bit too much. There we go. I think I missed an overlap. Oh well. I missed one of my petals. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing with the red. Clean my brush so there's no more pink. Grab the red liquid watercolor and go along the edge. And if it ever gets too muddy, clean your brush and dry it and then come back to your project. Because that purple will make it a little bit muddy, but it's also making it darker and adding that shadowed look. All right. And much improved. Now it has a blend, a gradation. Isn't that pretty? It almost looks Copic colored. So cool. All right. Now for the centers, we're moving on to a new color. Slide that up. Actually, 2. You're going to use the bright sunshine and the orange. Let's start with the yellow. That's fine. I'll put a tiny bit of orange on here too. You don't need very much. In fact, you can see we hardly used any of the colors. Doesn't take very much. A little bit of liquid watercolor is a long way. Okay, I'm trying to get that on camera. All right. My brush is clean and dry. We're going to grab a tiny amount of the sunshine and color our center and add a little dab to each one of those stamen. What a big difference that makes. And go ahead and move on to the other flower and do the same thing. Coloring the center and all the stamen. All right. Let's see. There we go. This guy over here. And I'm afraid it's probably still really wet. I don't really want to have to hit it with my heat tool. we're gonna go for it anyways. I'm gonna grab the orange. I'm gonna grab a little bit of orange and kind of add it to the base of the stamen. Now this might be like where you go, okay, she's gone too far, which is okay. You do not have to do this. I'm just adding a tiny bit of that orange. A little bit to each of the stamen. Let's see if I can hold that up so you can see. We did the pink flower. It's very subtle. Probably can't see it on camera. And then I'm gonna add a little bit to the center as well, just a little bit here and there. Like maybe one side, just pick one side of, like envision that center as like a circle, and just pick one side of your circle and add a little bit of the orange. I know it's segmented, but don't worry about that. Treat it like a circle or a ball. Now I'll grab more of the orange and do the same thing on the other flower. I need a place to place my hand. Just gonna paint the side of that center. And then I just have this last flower here. All right, that's it. We're done watercoloring. I'll hold it up, maybe you can see. I'm gonna put this aside and let it dry a little bit. And we're gonna make our sentiment real quick, but we're done with our liquid watercolors, so you can tighten those lids up, put them aside. You can keep, if you have a palette like me, you can keep that on there, and all you have to do later if you want to use these colors again is just grab a brush, dip it in the water, and then come to your liquid watercolor. That liquid watercolor, even once it's dry, will reactivate on like a plastic palette. So it doesn't have to be wasted. All right. We're going to move on to stamping a sentiment. We're going to use black cardstock. We're going to do a classic black and white, black cardstock, white heat embossed sentiment. I'm going to grab my Misty here and quickly pull off my flower stamps. I left those on from earlier. How are we doing on time? Okay, I mean, everything went quickly once we got the technical stuff. Or I should say, I just kind of moved on. All right, the sentiment I'm going to use is thanks a bunch. I think this could work for a teacher card, kind of. Okay. Pop my sentiment into my Misty. We'll do it this way. And it's not upside down for you guys. Pick that up and apply some anti-static powder. Oh, look at what I did there. Maybe that was why I did not get a very good impression earlier, because my bag was wet because I think I got liquid watercolor on it. And we'll ink this up with the embossing and watermark ink. Just gotta figure out where to put it. Do it again. I think think that's it. I don't think, well, we'll do, nah, I'm just gonna call it done. All right, we're gonna dip this into the white embossing powder this time. Excuse me. And then I'll heat set with my heat tool. So it's gonna be noisy. Gonna turn my heat tool on. Okay, now we get to grab the matching dies. Love that this set comes with dies for your sentiments. I'm gonna just pour out all the dies here because I'm gonna need them all. And well, I don't need all of them, but we'll need the ones for the flowers as well. Okay, this is the one that coordinates with my sentiment, so I'll line it up and then we'll die cut it out. We'll grab a piece of tape though to kind of hold it in place. Great. Run that through. Look at that sentiment. Perfectly cut out. So great. Now let's move on to our flowers. All right, I'm gonna do a little test here. Are they wet still? I think they're dry. I'm not getting any color. If you're not sure, you can always hit it real quick with your heat tool. Just be careful that you don't leave that heat tool on them too long so that you're reheating up and remelting your heat embossing. That's the only thing you kind of have to watch out for. I think they're dry enough, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the coordinating dies and we're going to line them all up. Definitely going to be using tape to tape these in place. Okay, grab some more tape. We're rock and roll on home stretch here. This is the fun part where you get to put it all together. The best part. All our separate elements. Okay, I just kind of turn that die till I know I got it in the right spot. Some of these flowers can be a little tricky to see where they go right straight away, straight looking down. Kind of look for distinguishing features in the petals, but even still sometimes that can be a little tricky. So I just keep kind of, there we go, rotating it till I find it lining up. All right. Excuse me. I got sick this week, and you guys, I got COVID. I had COVID this week. It's the first time I got it. I've ever had it. And it was hit me hard. I won't lie, it hit me hard. I'm still recovering, but I feel good, much better than I did. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna die this out. That always takes some time. You almost died like that. All right, pulling off all the tape now. Oops, some of it wasn't completely dry, but it looks okay. All right, and those are all our flowers and leaves all cut out. Look at how pretty they are. Now we have one more thing we need to die cut out, a vase. I just used some white cardstock. I'm gonna grab a scrap here and die cut that out. I do feel a lot better. I feel a lot better. Yeah. It finally got me. And I know exactly how I did. I know exactly what I did that got me into trouble. But it was worth it. I went to a concert. Yeah, and I didn't wear a mask. So it's kind of my own fault. Oh no. Oh my gosh, you went to the ER? Gosh, I hope you're feeling better now. That's terrible. Oh, I made a right mess of this. Let's see if I can't clean up. I've got like fingerprints all over this. I have my spray bottle. Here we go. Got some clean water. Let's see if I can clean this up a little bit. I have my towel in a clean area of my towel, which is hard. Oh, that helped a lot. I'll try to clean up that spot too. Watercolor is pretty great like that. It's pretty forgiving. I have a little dot there. I'm going to leave that. That's just going to stay. All right. That's pretty good. It's more cleaned up. I saw, probably don't know her. She's kind of a folk singer, folk Western singer. Her name is Sierra Farrell. That's who I saw. She's kind of small, but I prefer that because the venues are much more affordable to go to a concert and not so difficult to have a good seat. But she was really good. It was, I'm okay with that being that what got me to have COVID eventually, because it was such a good concert. All right, I'm going to add liquid glue to the back side of my watercolor panel and add it to my card base. I'm using the Hero Arts Precision Glue. Place that down. I'm going to grab my plate from my die cutting machine. Pull that on top. While that's kind of setting up, we are going to arrange our flowers and vase. So I'm going to start arranging them. This would be, if you have, I'm going to use tape, but if you have a press and seal, oh, here you go. If you have press and seal, that would work great for what we're going to do next. Ooh, you made some good chicken noodle soup. That sounds great. That definitely helps, doesn't it? All right, we're going to start to arrange the flowers and leaves, I guess. I think I did a better job coloring these flowers than I did on my original. I like these flowers better. That's a happy surprise. I'm going to use that pink flower to kind of cover the stem. I need my Hero Arts tweezers to kind of arrange everything. Oof, it's sticking to my fingers. There we go. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. That's what I'm going for. Future Islands. Oh, in Oakland. Awesome. Okay, I'm using my press and seal actually because I found it. You could just use a couple pieces of tape too if you don't have press and seal. You just cut some long pieces of tape to kind of and place it over your die cuts, and that will kind of hold everything in place too. All right, carefully lift this up, flip it over, and now it's time for us to go a little crazy with foam adhesive. All right, I've got this really super duper mega thick stuff, but that's what we're gonna use. Start cutting some pieces. Whatever you got works. Place them, you kind of be mindful where you're placing your foam adhesive. You can kind of save yourself a lot of trouble if you place it over at least a couple die cuts at the same time. It just kind of holds everything in place for you, which makes it easier when you're placing this, because even though I'm using that press and seal, things tend to kind of fall off on the press and seal. All right, I'm almost done here with my foam adhesive. I'll add a little. This stuff is mega thick. It's going to be extra dimensional. But that's not a bad thing. All right. Okay, we can remove this. That's nice and set up. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the backing on that foam adhesive. Alrighty, they. Okay, and now I'm going to stick this down. Center it over that ombre background. Remove that press and seal. It's coming along. Okay, and then we have our sentiment, and that's going to go right across the vase. I'm going to use my foam adhesive again. Just going to make sure I avoid the center of my sentiment because that's where the vase is. So I'm going to just get the sides. This is va va voom. All right. That is it. Woo! So pretty. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera to my face real quick here. Just give me 1 second. All right. Okay. Woo! All right, guys. Thank you so much again for being so patient while we created this card and I had all those technical problems. I'm glad it got to working better. I think I learned a lot actually in this live. So I now know I have a better understanding of where my problem is. But look at how cool that turned out. It's so pretty. Look at all that dimension we have from the foam adhesive. Such a fun, and look at, let me grab the original. I just want to show you, we did a much better job painting these flowers than these. I think these ones have a lot more depth. I think we did a better job. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next live. Bye, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.